All right, Diego, feel free to take it away.
All right, everybody, welcome.
Hey.
I think everybody's going to start filing in, so I'll just get started by saying welcome to our Learn Anywhere lesson webinar, Halloween edition. As you can see, we're all in the spirit already with our costumes on. I just want to go over some housekeeping items for us. My name is Diego. I am the account executive with Ozobot, in charge of California, Connecticut, Oklahoma, West Virginia, and Louisiana. And I'm here to basically just introduce the webinar and our hosts. First thing I want everybody to know is that Zoom is going to automatically mute and turn everybody else's camera off. If you do want to join the conversation throughout the webinar, there's a Q&A button at the end of your Zoom screen. You can ask questions you'd like us, the panelists, to answer at the end of the session. We also have a chat section where you guys can start a dialogue with the entire group. Just make sure that you select all panelists and attendees in the bottom right-hand corner to make sure that everybody can see it. We'll be monitoring those two things throughout the process, answering questions. Another thing I wanted to let you know, the slides are not available for the webinar. They will be available for the webinar afterwards via our webinar page, our YouTube channel, and we can email them to you. We have Melissa, Tui, Theresa, Rapier, Natalie, Sanchez, and Lisa Richardson. So Melissa, Theresa, and Natalie are internal Ozobot employees in the EDU team. And Melissa Richardson is our certified educator that is gracious enough to help us out with these. And she's a high school math teacher. So Melissa?
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Tui. Today, Taco Tui, if you will. And I am the EdTech and Adoption Specialist here at Ozobot. I'm a former kindergarten and first grade teacher. I founded a coding, engineering, design thinking program in South LA at a charter school in Watts. I've coached teachers in implementing computer science, and when I'm not at Ozobot, I'm at UCLA pursuing my doctorate in educational leadership. And I'm so excited to be here with everyone. All popcorn to Harry Potter. Natalie, AKA Harry Potter.
Thank you, Taco Tui. I do have to shout out Lisa Richardson. This is my first time meeting you, but you were my inspiration because your lessons were just fantastic. So I was really happy to hear that you were going to be a part of it. I wanted to support you, and I can't wait for you to tell others about your lessons. But here's my little hint about the lessons she created for everybody. My name is Natalie Sanchez, and prior to joining Ozobot, I spent oh my goodness, multiple years in the classroom as an elementary ed teacher, ranging from 5th grade, kindergarten, and 3rd grade, so a little bit all over the map, and then transitioned into instructional coaching, specific with computer science immersion, integrating computer science through grades K through 5, as well as leading professional development, specific to integration in computer science. So now I'm helping to develop hopefully lessons that you all will be able to utilize in your classroom with your students. I think that Diego totally mentioned that we will be able to target those computer science standards, no problem. And we're also really trying to target core content as well. So I'm excited to be here and look forward to hearing what all of you wonderful educators think about the lessons that we've come up with. And I will popcorn. I got a popcorn, Lisa.
And I happen to be Harry Potter dressed today because I literally had this sitting on my table behind my laptop. It's our homecoming week, so we get all out. So I'm Dobby today, and I have been working with Ozobot for about 3 or 4 years, but actually working with Melissa in the education. I had no idea there was a certified educator since about March when we all went remote. So I have been in the classroom and have not yet had a chance to get active with my kids because we were, well, I live in Texas. We had a hurricane, we had a tropical storm, we had, we've actually, our 9 weeks turned into about 5.5. So we've been cramming everything in to try and keep on deal. But in the past, I've used it for major grades, and I am a high school math teacher. I teach math models, which is a kind of like an algebra secondary class. And I love integrating it in with quadratics and with our geometry unit at the end. But the activities I have for you today can be used as low as intermediate school, measuring angles. And if you are not in a math subject, you guys can use it in other subjects. I'll tell you how, but that's me. And I enjoy using Ozobot. I love it. I brought robotics into my classroom about 3 years ago because of Ozobot, and my kids just really react well to it. So that's me. And I think what is it? Is it Theresa next?
Theresa.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, so I'm Theresa. I'm currently a software engineer at Ozobot now, working on our classroom site. But before I transitioned to that, I was a curriculum developer as well. I made a couple of the Halloween lessons using some computer science concepts. And before I started Ozobot, I was a teacher doing K through 8. I taught in Korea for 2 years, and then I taught in LA as a private tutor, and also in a special needs program in East Whittier school district. And I love working with kids and coming up with creative things and then seeing them create things too. So I'll hopefully inspire you to try out my lessons too. Yeah, and that's it. Melissa, I guess.
Great, yes. I'm going to go over some really brief overviews of our Learn Anywhere lessons. Natalie is going to be sharing our Halloween Learn Anywhere lessons, and then Theresa and Lisa will be sharing lessons that you can do in class or modified to deliver to your students depending on the context that they're in. I know a lot of you have joined us for previous Learn Anywhere webinars, so I'm going to go over this super quickly, but if you want more information about these, I highly encourage you to check out either past webinar recordings, or you can check out our webinar that we're hosting tomorrow that's going to be all about math lessons. But our Learn Anywhere lessons are full, complete packages that we want. We created this with teachers in mind. We wanted to take all the heavy lifting off of you. Any resource that you possibly would need to deliver a lesson is included in this package. What I do want to highlight is that each of our Learn Anywhere lessons has a instructional video for you to utilize. It's student facing. So this is where you can send those videos to your students and they can self-pace and self-guide through the lesson. Or if you're a teacher that is interested in computer science, but you're a little bit nervous or you're not quite confident in delivering the instruction, you can use that video to help guide your instruction and use it almost like as a coaching tool, or even just you know, a crutch that you want to use during your instructional time.
May I caution one thing?
Yeah.
If the answers are in there, make sure you've previewed the video, because you might not want to give them all the answers. I almost made that mistake. Just saying, as you know.
Yep, and we've been trying to be a little bit better about balancing rigor and not giving away all the answers, but while modeling the content that they need to know in order to be successful. So that's a really, really good point to bring up, Lisa. But again, all of the traditional lesson materials are there for you. There's answer keys, and we highly recommend that all students start with the first 4 lessons that are introductory to color codes, and you can find those 4 lessons here. This webinar recording, as Diego said, and the slide deck will be up on our webinar page, so you can always come back, click through, and look at all the resources and the links. And again, the one Learn Anywhere lesson that has the instructional video is our Ozobot Trick or Treat that I'm going to pass over to Natalie. And then she's going to talk about that. And then Theresa will talk about her 2 lessons, and then Lisa will talk about her, her lessons as well. So with that, Natalie, I'll stop sharing so you can take over.
All right. Thank you, Melissa.
Yes, thank you.
I want to make sure there we go. What? Sorry, it's prompting me to install something. I don't know why.
Zoom may have had an update, so if it's not working,
Wonky.
Natalie, yeah, I can oh, I see your screen now.
All right, I think you can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think it had to do with sound, so I just won't really preview show you all the video because you won't be able to hear it. Okay, So just a quick little overview. This was definitely a team collaborative effort. The thought process behind this remote trick-or-treat lesson was to try to create an activity that could be applicable to multiple grade levels. So that was kind of the mindset going into this lesson. The way that it was designed is intentional for math concepts of addition, multiplication, and division. But there's also some suggestive ways that you can even just use the map template on your own, which I will mention to you. But as Melissa mentioned, so the lesson's going to include an instructional video. Typically, our instructional videos range from 6 to 10 minutes. This one is about 9 minutes. But what's great about it is it's split into chapters, and you can either facilitate the video for your students, or the students can self-pace as they move through the lesson. So it operates in an I do, you do format. So there's the mini how-to in completing a step, and then the students are prompted to complete that step. So it's very much sequentially oriented. I was gonna play the intro video because I love the Halloween music, but I think my Zoom component didn't like me sharing my sound with y'all. So you guys will just have to wait and hold on to your seats to listen to that wonderful introduction. But the way that the lesson works, so you'll determine ahead of time which map you want your students to use. This can be based on your specific grade level, or it can just be based on differentiation, depending on what your goal is. So our wonderful creative team brought to life our map for addition. So as you can see, this is like a neighborhood simulation, and the different houses prompt students to solve a different type of math problem. So the objective is that students will use color codes, which are sequences of color that will program Ozobot to complete different tasks. So I'm gonna jump ahead for a second just so you can see what I'm talking about for those of you new. So we have, as a part of Ozobot, we have a color codes key, and within that key, there's certain sequences of color that will prompt Ozobot to produce a certain output. So for this activity, these are the suggested color codes that students can choose from, and ultimately they will be using these color codes to try to get Ozobot to visit as many houses as possible. So there is a little bit of a challenge there as far as problem solving and strategic thinking, aside from the actual math concept that's embedded in the lesson. So we have directionality as far as programming the bot to turn left, to turn right, to move straight, depending on the lines and the intersections, which any grade, it is so important that students learn their left from their right. So I'm all about reinforcing that in any way that we can. So looking at those color code sequences, I'll go back to the map. You can see all of the different empty boxes throughout the map that are missing a color code. So students will use that key to determine what color codes they want to try. I mean, it really truly can be a test, or they can truly plan it out more strategically. Now, the catch of this is that the very first color code is a 30-second timer. So the bot is going to be programmed to run only 30 seconds, and then it's going to stop. Just to add to that rigor and make it a little bit more exciting, the intent, I mean, if you have a student who gets their bot to get to all of these houses in 30 seconds, please reach out to me, because I tried and I was not able to do that. So I would be totally blown away. But the goal is to see how many houses the students can get to. And then depending on the map you choose, as I mentioned, when their bot passes a house, they are supposed to record the math problem to collect the candy. So if it's addition, they'll be recording their addition problems, multiplication will be multiplication, division will be division. And then you can kind of see here, but the Ozobot trick-or-treat template with the trick-or-treat data chart is very similar for all three maps. This one correlates directly with the addition, but the job of the students is that as their bot is traveling around the neighborhood, first and foremost, they're going to record data to track the sequence of its trip. So they'll write the house numbers in order that the bot visits those houses, and then they can go back after, so there's not a lot going on and they're not like overwhelmed with the process. They can go back after and reference to match the house number with whatever their equation was, And finally, they will solve those equations to collect the candy. And that's kind of supposed to just seal the deal that Ozobot collected all the candy. And then just some fun questions, like they can compare their data. So we also wanted to make it a little bit more fun for the students. So before they run their bot, optionally, they can dress their Ozobot up. Like we all like to dress up today. We wanted to give the students the opportunity to dress their bot up. So there are some costume template choices that they can choose from. We've got the bat, the pumpkin. I think that's like Frankenstein. And then they can also draw and create their own. So just a fun feature. Again, that's optional. I mean, if that's kind of just a fun factor added, but I think the students would really enjoy that. And then finally, before I pass it on, I just wanted to let you know that we're being intentional and trying to be a little bit more aware of certain lessons that allude to customization. So when applicable, we're trying to make that connection of giving you as educators templates that are blank so that you can customize and orient them to fit your own needs. So just to let you know that this lesson has a blank template. You could use this template to push in any sort of math that you would like. For I know our K2 folks, you could put sight words on here. You could put letters. You could put like blends and digraphs. And I mean, however you wanted to customize this template. The other thought is if you don't have time to customize but really want to do this activity, you could give your each student 2 of these maps and make it more of like a STEAM-oriented activity. So challenge them to, again, get their bot to visit as many houses as possible. And they would plug in on map 1, a certain plan using color codes. And then on map 2, a different plan for color codes, and just compare their results. So that's just another total non-math related way to do this activity. So I believe I am passing it to Theresa. I'm going to stop share. And Melissa, are you going to take the screen back?
I believe Theresa's going to take it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. All right. So back to our beautiful presentation. 1 second, sorry. Okay. The Zoom menu with all the people is just like, no, I want to be on top. I can't see anything. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is start with the presentation, then I have a little demo. So I'll get rid of the screen share and I'll just show my video. And so start with this. So the random spooky story generator for Halloween is both a language arts lesson and a computer science lesson. So the way that it works is that we have our map and we have all these different types of words, and the students will fill in some pictures to represent some verbs, some adverbs, some nouns. So if students don't know what an adverb is, maybe you can have them swap it out for more adjectives. And so once the students have completed drawing in the pictures, the bot will start on the beginning of the story, where on the bottom where it says on a dark and stormy night. Then the bot will randomly move around the map and then take a pause. Wherever the bot pauses, the students will grab whatever word that picture represents. So maybe if the picture, like in the center, adjective, maybe something is scary or frightening, they can get a little more creative with the actual word because it's a picture. And then so the bot moves around, lands on their pictures, they write down what it represents, and then at the end, when the bot lands in the end spot, or maybe if you want to set a certain time limit, that's the end of the story. Sometimes it can just be 3 pictures that they end up landing on, and so they have to maybe get pretty succinct or really colorful with those 3 concepts they have to add into their story. And so we'll talk about the computer science part of it. Let's see. So there's a small article as part of this lesson that explains how computers make random numbers. And this is something that the students can have or you hand out depending on if you're at home or not. The students can read through and learn to understand how computers just choose a random number. And that random number algorithm is what we use. If you can see in the middle, this the gray blocks that say random integer between this and that. And for this lesson, you don't have to get into the Ozobot code itself. If you just want to discuss the concept of randomness and then do the activity, that's probably going to fill up a whole session. But since students need to access the program to load it onto their bot, you can maybe take some time to get into it as you like. So I'll just walk through this really quickly just for background. So since Blockly is sequential, it's just going to start at the top, and then each code as it goes down is what runs next. And then if you have a loop, it will run these teal blocks. They'll run either however many times or infinitely. So it starts at the top, your bot turns pink for 2 seconds, and then you know it's on. Then there's a set lights function, which was created inside that program, so students can even edit that if there's time for that. Then the student will do a little light show, so 10 times like moving the lights randomly, so this is another chance to discuss randomness. Then the bot will move, it'll set the lights to some random grouping, then it will move at a random speed for a random max time, and it will turn at some random angle. And then whatever border that you've made your map, so mine's red, so I'll show you this in a second, that's what the bot will bounce off of. So it's inside this little bubble. Then it will pause just for 2 seconds. And these are all editable. So if the students want more time to figure out where their bot stopped, you can change that randomly pause seconds to 5 seconds or whatever you need. And this is a version for Evo with proximity sensors, where you have to, so let me grab my bot. So if you're familiar with Evo, then you know that it has IR sensors in the front and in the back. And what you can do is sort of activate the sensors around Evo, like maybe with like a triangle or like a square with your fingers. And then it'll go around the bot, and the bot will only move when your hands are on it. So then you can move with the bot, so it's kind of like a Ouija board, but you don't have to explain the Ouija board if it's too creepy. But then the bot will move with you, and then when it pauses and you move your hands away, it will pause. So you have that chance to write down what word you got. So let's see here. Okay, cool. So in that case, I'm going to stop sharing and just go full screen, and then you can zoom in as you like. All right, so I've got my map with a red border, and I've got my Evo with the program, and I'm gonna double tap, and it's running the program. So it's going at a randomly slow speed, and it looks like it's, there we go. It's bouncing off of that border. It hasn't paused yet. Okay, so now it's turned purple and paused, and it's landed on this adverb for, I don't know if you can see it. So I drew like the letter N with like an arrow, so it's like north, so like northerly. So maybe it's like spooky northerly winds or something. And then give the bot continue. And one thing that I did, which was naughty, was, okay, pause on it says like it's a adjective. It's supposed to look like a sword. It's supposed to be pointy. So the northerly winds, and then something else is pointy, and you're setting up this scene for a spooky story. And so once the students get all their words, they can write them down, put together into a story, and then they can tell their spooky story. One thing that I wanted to mention is that I was naughty. I sped up the bot, but I did not shorten the time that it would run. So that's why it's taking so long between its runs. So you can change up the code pretty quickly. Got a green pumpkin, so that's another one. We don't have much time to write a full story, so I'll move on, but that's the basics. So if you have any questions on that, you can throw them in the Q&A, and I'll move on to the next lesson.
Theresa, will you just show that map one more time? Because as you were explaining the activity, I'm sorry, my brain was going crazy, but I was just thinking for our folks who are focusing on color codes, an alternative, and specifically for like our K1 folks, you could use that template that Theresa created because it's fantastic. It's gridded, and just have the lines dark, like black or blue, just one solid color. And the students could actually fill it in, like for K1 students, you could have them, you know, fill in rhyming words related to Halloween: cat, bat. Okay, there's got to be more, but anyways, then you could even have like your second, third, fourth, or fifth grade, same thing. They could just put in words related to Halloween, like spooky words, and maybe instead of writing a full story, as Ozobot passes, because it's going to randomly choose because of those lines, they could use the words to just make like spooky sentences. So just an alternative, because I know some of us might not be familiar with Ozoblockly, but I think there's so much like versatility with that activity. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, and then another thing that's a modification option is, so you draw in this border for the bot to bounce. You could even just maybe put the border in, you could fill in the squares on the outside. So you really only have a smaller area to, because I realize there's a lot of pictures you got to draw. I'm just imagining, I don't know, a group of fourth graders trying to draw that many pictures in like an hour. Like, I was a little optimistic. But anyway, so thank you. Those were great ideas. Yeah, maybe we should publish some remixes. So I need to go back to sharing the screen. Cool, okay. And share, okay. Okay, so this next one is a color code activity for Dia de los Muertos. And it's about honoring ancestors, and it's talking about the concept of your family tree and then comparing it to a binary tree, which is, I suppose, a mathematical concept. I don't know, I guess binary trees is something in computer science of just trying to like find things down a tree, like how fast can you find information down a tree on a computer, but that's not really covered. Doesn't really matter, but you can even just discuss the idea of creating this tree and how it splits off twice, and then trying to imagine how big a binary tree can get, and then thinking about your own family, about how far it can get. Like, so if you go back 5 or 6 generations, like how many grandparents, great grandparents do you have? You actually have a lot. So your family is like quite big if you go back in time. Maybe thinking about ancestors isn't super common, at least maybe like in the States and Canada, or even in Europe. So this is sort of an idea to give kids a chance to think about it. So let's see, I'll use the picture that you can see on the screen. So basically what students are going to do is on day 1, or at least the night ahead of time or some day ahead of time, they should find out who's in their family tree. And so the very first starting point should be them. Then they can choose one of their parents. Oops. Okay. Then they can choose one of their parents, and then they can split off into their parents, and then they can split off into each of their parents. They don't have to fill the whole thing. It could just be as many people as they know of or have met in person or have time to do. And they could also do their aunt and uncle. So maybe It could be me, it could be my aunt, and it could go into another part of the family tree if you wanted to. And the challenge here is that students have to, once they've chosen how to do their map, they put in the color codes for intersection choices or any U-turns to make sure that their bot can go and visit all of these ancestors and kind of give them the gift or share like a moment with them at their altar, which are these boxes. So maybe if, oopsie, sorry. I wonder if I can zoom in. Nope. But if you can see, the top of the example map has some yarn, and so maybe your father's mother loved knitting, and so maybe you give her some yarn, just like imaginary. And then once your bot goes through the whole map, you've succeeded in reaching out to all of your ancestors. This lesson also comes with these sugar skulls. I'm wearing some. This is part of my costume. And we have some that come already printed with color, and then we have the blank ones so kids can decorate them. And then you can just stick it on your bot. You can put them on any way you want. With this one, I just have it so you can see them both in like 3D. And these are some lovely photos. Thank you, Melissa, for sharing these of one of the schools that she was at. Actually, they went all out and did some like whole celebrations. And I love these pictures. It looks like they're really getting into learning more about different, if it's their different culture, a different culture. One thing about the lesson that I mentioned is if students come from a family that do have practices to visit their ancestors, like in Taiwan or Korea or anywhere else, maybe it's a chance for those students to share what they do at this time of year. So like a week or two ago in Korea, it was Chuseok, which is Thanksgiving, but it's also a time to go visit the ancestors, give them some gifts, make sure they're okay, make sure they're healthy and happy. Okay, and so I'm going to, maybe I'll stop this and I'll show you quickly the bot running on the map, and then that will be it. So I'll stop sharing, get you guys back down. And so this is just the same map that we were checking out. You can see it. We've got our bot. There we go. And so the logic here is that we want to make a left turn first, and then this code is ignored because it's the wrong direction to read it. We made a U-turn, oh, sorry. And then this one's actually goes straight. So we're enforcing that as you come back around, it sees the code correctly and then it moves on. And that's the same pattern that we've used over here. We made a U-turn, and then this is going to tell us to go straight at the next intersection to get to the end. All right, cool. That is it. Yeah.
I'll take the screen from there if that's all right and pass the baton to Lisa. Thank you, Theresa and Natalie. Those were some really, really great, fun, exciting lessons. And I'll pass it to Lisa.
Okay, I guess I kind of introduced earlier, I get really excited about the material, but this is my 20th year teaching too. So I've been teaching high school math the whole time, and I teach a lot of special populations too. So one of the things, if you guys are high school or secondary and having principal support, don't let them think markers and robots are not doing something. The next two activities I'm going to show you are pretty much middle school. And the Harry's Horcrux Challenge, it goes across the board. You can do it with any grade level. Mine are self-made projects. They're not like professionally line drawn by Ozobot. So they're not quite as fancy. I feel like following the valedictorian and the salutatorian over here. But so mine was just kind of thrown into the theme with the Halloween, but there is some math related and then some logic related. So if you want to go on, Melissa. So right here, there's a lot of concepts covered. If you notice, Melissa put all the different It goes across grade levels. I don't know where your state stands, but I did it, kind of do it. So I give a student worksheet, and what it is Hermione has to go make a potion. So she has to visit all these places to gather her stuff for her potions. And what it is, it's basically measuring angles. So where is she going to start? She's starting in the Griffin's common room, and she has to go in any direction to reach these things. But you don't want to cross over Hermione again, so they have to make sure they go around her and get all of the items. Again, if you're using markers, you can just simply draw it and make sure that they turn the right way, or you can make them do others in there. So this one's kind of a basic, and then it's definitely using Ozobot. They do need to program it if they do it blank, so they'll be measuring angles and stuff. For those of you in science and stuff like that, y'all can measure the angles for them if you want to. Computer science, lower level, the same basic thing. Y'all could, measure them for them, and cool, and have them do their own thing here. So it's just kind of like, it also notes when I first did Ozobot, I noticed that Ozobot automatically goes counterclockwise, right, Melissa? He automatically goes counterclockwise or clockwise, and you have to program him to work the other way. So there's a lot of troubleshooting in here as well that they need to do. So she goes around, she gets all the stuff for her potion. It's actually to straighten her hair because she has an interview to move on, I think, in school. I did it kind of detailed, but there's a whole lesson plan written out there and some sample coding for you guys. So this one's going to be using angles. It's going to be using Ozobot. And in my lesson, if you go to the classroom, I have a lot of introductory lessons. This is not something you would want to start with, honestly. They would want to have a little bit of experience with Ozobot in order to get around. So then my next one is actually, it's Harry's Horcrux challenge. So Melissa, if you want to go to the next one. All right, oops. So Harry's Horcrux challenge is actually the very last activity I did with my kids before we got out for spring break and then didn't return last year. This is a logic puzzle. Logic goes with any single grade level. And what happens is he already has a Horcrux and he has to go visit all of these. So I actually make my kids figure out, well, if he goes and he gets the diary, then he's going to stop there. So what does he need to do? And they have to know to put a U-turn at the end of every one. So I kind of walk them through it a little bit. One of the things I believe Natalie said earlier was right and left is I always recommend with my students to turn their paper the direction Ozobot is traveling. I definitely think that makes it. Also on this challenge, you'll notice it's black and white. So it's something they could print at home if they're not with you, or you can easily and cheaply print for them. I had 2 levels in my lesson, so this is definitely the harder level. The other one is going to be a little bit easier. He doesn't have to find quite as many Horcrux, but it is designed for Evo and Bit. So if you still have bits, it works for that one as well. And this one's purely color coding. So this one's a lot about how is he going to get all his Horcruxes, so it goes along with Natalie's candy. And how is he going to get to Lord Voldemort, basically at the end. And then I printed up the little pictures because that's just me. And I have, Ozobot can't just be Ozobot walking along. He has to be in it a little bit more. And so if you download my lesson, there's some videos, like my kid demanded I record him. He's like, no, you can record me. Here you go, miss. Go ahead and record me. And I'm like, okay. And so I did include that in there. But logic is so important for our kids, and troubleshooting and seeing where you can go. And Ozobot, order of operations, which I don't think any of us have recommended. Is it red, blue, green? Is it green, white, green, black, green? They need to know that, and they need to discuss like in the order that he's traveling. So that is one of the things that you definitely want to look at. But other than that, that would be it for my 2. It's just kind of some basic ones that would go along with the theme of today. You're welcome to message me if you have any questions, but these are perfectly appropriate for intermediate to high school. And there is an elementary version on here as well that I did with Harry's Horcrux challenge. So logic is so important. So I definitely focus on that in my math class.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. And just to piggyback on your comment about the negative degrees in the rotation, I'm going to pass it to Theresa, our engineering expert in chief during this webinar, to comment on that, just so she can give us the most accurate information.
Can you repeat what you said? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we were just wondering, I think Lisa mentioned that the degrees has it rotate counterclockwise, but could you just explain how you can get it to move both counterclockwise and clockwise?
Yeah, so on the codes, I believe she has the rotate. Actually, could you move it back to the picture with the codes on it? Perfect. So it's got, it's a rotate code, and you can do an angle and you can do a speed. So you have to use the integers. So if you want the bot to move to the left, so that's counterclockwise, you would use a positive number there. And if you want the bot to move to the right, you would put a negative, so like -10, so just the dash. And that will make your bot go to the right.
And that's also something that kids can learn on their own if you don't tell them if they're high enough. You know, they can do all the math required, that multi-step equation, which I might have done the first time, just saying, to figure out that way. And it also depends on which way she travels, if they have to do the positives or negatives, depending on what you do.
Exactly, yeah, nice.
Great, thank you both for that insight. I was going to go over some of the content aligned lessons that we have being released soon, but we are running up. I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A at the end of this session. So I highly encourage you, if you're interested in our ELA, math, or STEAM content, tomorrow we are giving a thorough webinar all about our latest math lessons that have been released into the lesson library. So feel free to come back and tune in tomorrow to get more information about that. But I am actually going to just remind everyone that in the slide deck, there are links to all 3 of the lessons. I'll also add in Lisa's lessons so that you can access hers as well. There's a recap on how to use the lesson on the Ozobot blog, where we have guided instructions on how to assign this if you are in remote, in-person, or a hybrid setting. So lots of really great tips for you there. And then any recaps on those first 4 remote-friendly lessons that we recommend, there's a link to a webinar for you as well. And with that, Diego, I'll pass it to you. Would you like to share your screen, or would you like me to just click through the slides?
You can pass it over to me.
Okay, sure.
So we kept time for Q&A. I do want to go over everything that you just saw, all the remote-friendly lessons are basically tied to a new program that we just released recently called the Ozobot 1-to-1 hybrid program. It basically leverages existing, can you guys see my screen? Okay, it leverages existing Google Classroom accounts. So we want to make it, again, very teacher-centric. We don't want to throw something brand new to you, at you. So basically, if you have a Google Classroom account, you can use and assign these remote-friendly lessons to your students. And to that end, to also make it easier for your students, is they don't have to create new accounts. They just basically use their Google Classroom accounts to access the lessons that you assign to them. And I just want to go over that flow so you kind of get an idea of what the student will see on their end once you assign a lesson using Ozobot Classroom. This is a Google Classroom account for students. This is the example lesson that's been assigned for Ozobot Classroom. So your student click on that link, and they will use their existing Google Classroom account to access that lesson. And that's what my screen would load. And that's what we're referencing in those kind of self-paced videos. So it's asynchronous. Your students get the lesson assigned to them. They go through each step, which is not loading for me right now. But anyway, I'll try it one more time because I really want to make sure you guys see this flow. Okay. All right. It's not going to load it. The point being is just that it's something that can be integrated remotely using Google Classroom. There's also a way to do it if you don't use Google Classroom. We don't want to leave anybody outside of this of these lessons. So these lessons can be used remotely or in person. And there we have some blog posts explaining how to do that. So anytime you have any questions, feel free to email any of us, call our support line or anything like that. We'll show you exactly what to do to basically enjoy this anywhere you teach, remotely, in person, hybrid, whatever the case may be. We just want to make sure that it's something that you basically can use anywhere. The one-to-one program is what we came up for that. So give me any questions you have about that in the Q&A. We also have funding sources. So any conversation about how to get some money for this, because that's one of the biggest, things that will stop a program like this. So there's federal funds, state funds, there's grant opportunities. I'm more than welcome to go into any of those resources with you to make sure that this can be something implemented with your students as soon as possible, so we don't keep sliding down like we did at the end of last year. So with that, I think we have 10 minutes left, and I think that would be enough time for a Q&A, Melissa.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
I believe one of the questions are about expanding the Dia de los Muertos map for non-traditional families. And Theresa, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, thank you. One of the things is that, let's see, I'm trying to put this up. So for, this is one of the examples inside of the lesson itself. And you'll see that it kind of goes from me to mom, and then mom's aunt to great grandpa Joe and Mrs. Joe. So the idea here is maybe the family is, maybe mom's aunt is related to great grandpa Joe, and that's who you wanted to also reach out to. And then his wife is maybe not your biological great grandmother, and you can put Mrs. Joe, like however you want to. I guess you can just explain that the idea is that it goes generation by generation. And if you can go further back, that's cool. But otherwise, if you, as I mentioned it just kind of in passing in the description, but if students want to create like maybe more tree branches on the same level, like multiple siblings, they would just have to draw it out manually on their own, and they may need help with that. Yeah, and so that's my answer for that. Or any other creative thing they can come up with, is welcome.
Great, thank you. One of the questions, Courtney asked, how do you use the costumes for trick or treat without covering up the proximity sensors? Diego responded that you can disable the proximity sensors with the latest update, but something I do want to share with everyone here, our brilliant creative team planned ahead, and with the way that the costume options are created, you actually cut out the bots, or the costumes, I'm sorry, and then it's hard to see here, but there's a black, there's the black area, and then there's an extended white and gray area where you actually will cut around that, and you can fold it under so that the where you tape is on the side of the bot, and it doesn't interact or interfere with the proximity sensors. And the instructions for folding and taping to avoid the proximity sensors are there. So the costumes are designed to avoid the proximity sensors. I hope that's helpful.
Just to add to that, Melissa, so for like a visual, this is a real poor visual, but you use what you got, right? We're teachers, okay. So Post-it, basically, they're gonna kind of propped up like hats. So I think it's deceiving when you think of a costume. It's not actually gonna cover the bot itself. It's gonna wrap around just the top, and then it'll tape in the back. I don't know if that helps for a visual, but.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What is the best way to update the bots? I have 15 bits. Cassandra, do you have any guidance, or Diego or Teresa?
Yeah, the bits, as it turns out, are not updatable. They don't have firmware that can be updated. So only Evo, which is our latest model, has that ability to update the firmware. So with your bits, you're already set to go.
Yeah, with bits, they do most of what Evo does, except like some of the light and sound stuff.
Right.
So bits, you shouldn't have an issue. Most of the stuff should work with it.
Yeah, color coding Ozobot works. But yeah, that's why.
So to be explicitly clear then, Diego, if I'm a teacher and I only have bits accessible to me, all of those remote color code lessons I can access and use with my students.
You still can access them. You just will be able to assign them remotely using Google Classroom. You can run it in person, synchronously through like a Zoom-led teacher session, because they use the same exact.
Perfect. So they would work with the bits. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
And then I have another question from Rachel about the pricing of the one-to-one program. Great question, something that I can answer a little bit more in detail, maybe on a separate call. But we do have, because it doesn't not only include the hardware, which is the robots themselves, it includes a licensing cost into the software side of things, which is the remote-friendly lessons. We have 2 and 3 year options. I would love to, Rachel, if you don't mind, connect with you after this. I'll reply to you with my email address. We can go over some details about that.
Great, thank you so much, Diego. Anybody monitoring in the chat or Ozobot staff, were there any other questions that we missed or still need to be answered? Okay, great. Sorry, was that you, Cassandra?
Yes, I was saying, I think that was it. I think we got them all.
Oh, great, perfect. All right, let's see. So we are going to move on to our giveaway. We're gonna have our special guest, Dobby, the free elf, choose a number to determine our winner. Cassandra, do we have a range of numbers for Dobby to choose
I
from?
accidentally filled it out because I didn't know, so y'all might have to skip me.
Uh-oh.
I wasn't sure because I was kind of like just talk to Melissa about jumping in on those 2 lessons. Do I get to pick a number between?
Melissa, actually, can you, I didn't request access for the entry, so would you actually mind looking at that?
Yes, let me pull that up. I'm so sorry, I should have that.
And then let me know what my number is so I can guess that one.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. All right, let's see. Let me get
this is what we're all living right now, Melissa. This is our lives right now, right. Except people don't answer us back. That's how it goes in the classroom.
All right, so we have numbers 1 through 21.
16.
And Lisa, you were number 10, just to hold myself accountable.
Dang.
So
close.
Virginia, so close. It looks like Virginia Martin is our winner. Congratulations, Yay. Virginia.
Hey, Virginia.
If you could email Cassandra at ozobot.com to claim your prize, she will get that educator entry kit to you as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. So we just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Again, if you'd like to get a PD certificate for today's webinar, you can email support@ozobot.com. If you would like this recording, an email of this webinar recording and the slides, please opt in for updates at ozobot.com. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, you can plug in your email address there. And then access to today's lessons, the links are in the slide deck as well. And if you are interested in our one-to-one program, visit ozobot.com/hybrid to get in contact with one of our account executives. It was such a wonderful webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us. Have a wonderful Halloween.
Oh, Melissa, we had a
Yes.
good question right here.
Oh yes, sure.
Somebody asked that they need access to the user manual, that they can't find their user manual. So if you could, maybe somebody could send her a link to find the information. She just posted that in there. So.
Oh, great. Cassandra, is support@ozobot.com the best place to contact for that information?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat right now.
Great. Yeah. So Helen,
Sorry, I just saw that. I apologize.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Helen, if you email support@ozobot.com, we can help you get squared away. Awesome. Happy Halloween, everybody. And we hope to see you soon. We have another webinar tomorrow if you're interested in joining us, and we have more webinars coming up on our webinar page. So have a wonderful evening and stay safe out there.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.